back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the books that I lost sleep over. And not in like a creepy way, like they're horror books and they kept me awake and I was scared and stuff. I mean, there are some books that have done that, but these are not those books. These are the books which I love so much. Books that I couldn't put down, books that had me thinking, books that I cried until 3 AM about, books that I then found the fan fiction for and was awake until like 6 AM reading that. So you know the books, you know what I mean. I think we've all been there. So I thought I'd talk about those because I think there's none of these which are bad books. These are all books that they kept me up because there was something about them that was so good. So shall we start with the obvious ones? Yeah, let's go. Guess what's on this list? So the first one that we're going to talk about is City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. This is the final book in the Mortal Instruments series, and it was the first book in the Mortal Instruments series that I had to wait for. So all the other ones, when I started the series and when I first found out about the series, they were already out when I started reading them, so I didn't necessarily have to wait for them and I could kind of just go to the next one and I knew that they were there. This one I had to wait for and it was delayed and there was so much like surrounding it, which meant that I got it later than I wanted to have it. So when I finally got it, I bought it at midnight. Like I ordered a copy to collect in a shop, but I bought it at midnight on my Kindle to read it. And I read it the whole night. It was so good. I just needed that next one. I just needed that next book. I'd been waiting so long to find out what had happened next that as soon as it hit midnight and that book went on sale, I bought it and just read it the whole night through. I love this series. I love this book. It was a fantastic finale and it was so worth the lack of sleep. And then we have The Infernal Devices. I'm just going to consider the whole series. This is probably one of my favourite series and books that Cassandra Clare has ever written. I love this series, and when I first started it I just was binging it. I didn't have to wait for any of them to come out, but I had all 3 of them and I'd start reading and tell myself I was going to read one more chapter and then it would be 4 o'clock in the morning and I'd be like, oh yeah, sleep is a thing. Similarly to the Mortal Instruments, because this is part of the Shadowhunter Chronicles, it is a prequel set in the late 1800s and honestly I love it so much and I've lost many a night of sleep over Will Herondale. Then we have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. To be honest, I've lost sleep over all of the Harry Potter books, but this was the one that I remember. I think it was because it was the finale, so I just didn't want to stop reading. I just kept reading. I got the book at midnight. I went to the midnight launch and just started it as soon as I was home, and I just wanted to know what was going to happen and wanted to know who lived and who didn't and everything that was going on in this big finale of my favourite series of all time. This one is the one that I remember like distinctly not being able, all the other ones I couldn't put down and I'm sure I lost sleep over all the other ones as well. Like I'm positive that's the case. I mean, I've done that since, I've done that during rereads, but this is the one that I remember, I got it at midnight and didn't stop. And again, similarly, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, this is the script book, but to be honest I've lost many sleep over the actual play with how many times I've seen it and then come back really late and got home at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, this one I worked the midnight launch on because this came out when I worked at Waterstone, so I lost sleep that way, and then I got back and we hadn't had a Harry Potter story in years. I didn't know what this was going to be about. So whilst I should have gotten back and gone to bed because I was supposed to be getting a 6 AM coach to London the next day and I got back from work at 2:30, what did I do? I read the book. I started it. I didn't finish it from then. I probably only read it for about an hour, but I was very tired the next day and I have nothing to blame other than this book. Okay, so that's like the obvious ones out of the way. Like you probably knew they were going to be in this video. So let's get into ones that hopefully aren't so predictable. Next we have The Thing About Jellyfish by Ali Benjamin, and this book is very heavily focused on loss and death, and it's about Susie, and she is quite young. I think she's 11, and one of her friends has just died completely, like really suddenly. She drowned. Susie can't really understand why, so she kind of tries to fixate on something that could have been the reason why she died, and she came up with the fact that she got stung by a jellyfish and couldn't swim. So Susie becomes very heavily fixated on jellyfish. Now this book very much focuses on loss and grieving and dealing with that when you're a lot younger, and it's something that you can't really comprehend, or you struggle to comprehend a bit more because it's your first experience of it. I started this book and I thought it's not very long. I finished dinner, I finished my work, I've bought this book, let me chill with it. And honestly, I started it at about 10 PM, read it until about 2:30 and then cried so much that I probably didn't go to sleep until about 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not joking. This book was so emotional. I think it's the most I've ever cried during a book. I can't explain. Like, it was just, it really was very, 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 I related to it a lot. I saw a lot of myself in Susie, and yeah, this book, yeah. Then we have If You Feel Too Much by Jamie Trotsky. I can never say his last name. And this is a non-fiction book, and Jamie founded the non-profit organisation To Write Love on Her Arms, who are fantastic, and they do a lot of things for mental health and addiction, and things they've done and kind of what they've spoken about has been really helpful to me over the years. So I got this book when I found it in Waterstones. It wasn't out in England for a long time, but then when I was working there last year, it came in, and I got it, and I got home, and I just read the whole thing, and it made me think about a lot of things. It made me cry in some bits, and it was a very personal thing with kind of seeing myself in bits of it, but it was incredible and amazing, and it was worth losing sleep over, because this book was very real, but very, very, very good. Then we have Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, which, to be honest, is probably another predictable one. Some of you probably guessed this was going to be on this list. This book, I read it when I was on holiday. It wasn't that I read it during nighttime, or like read it at nighttime and lost sleep over it, but I read it in a whole day when I was on holiday in 2014. To be honest, I got really heavily sunburned, which made it hard to sleep because I was just sat in the same place reading, so that probably affected my lack of sleep. But I was just thinking about it, and like, it just stayed in my head, because this is probably my favourite standalone. One of them anyway, in the top 5. I just couldn't stop thinking about it, and we got to go to bed that night, and I was just like trying to connect to the hotel's crappy Wi-Fi, trying to find like fan fiction and more information about this book. And to be honest, I probably just reread my favourite scenes over and over again that night, and yeah, I do remember kind of staying up a lot later than I would have done, just thinking and researching and trying to add more aspects related to this book into my life. Then we have Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. This is another non-fiction book, and another one which I thought I'd just read after it's not very long. Just finished my work and stuff for the day, and I'll read this book. Read it until like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then cried a lot and related a lot and felt a lot, and this was very a lot and was definitely one that I just was then thinking about and rereading my favourite bits and going over different things and thinking about lots of things, and it was definitely one which I did lose a lot of sleep over. I did. This is sort of what the title says, really, Reasons to Stay Alive, and Matt Haig's own experiences and journey, and it's very emotional but very good. Then we have Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I could have read this book in one go, but I was so busy at the time when I got it that I couldn't. But when I read the last bit of it, probably about that much, I just binged it into the night. And I lost loads of sleep, and then I was thinking about it, and then I did the same thing that I did with Ari and Dante and looked for loads of fan fiction and just was reading my favourite bits over and over again. This is about a boy called Simon who is gay but is not out yet, and he is talking to this guy, but he knows the guy goes to his school but he doesn't know who he is, and then his emails get found and he's kind of like threatened to be outed. I saw a bit like a Cinderella story vibes, but an LGBTQ plus version, and it's honestly again one of my top 5 favourite standalones. It made me think a lot. I loved it so much. I was definitely awake longer than I should have been after reading this and during reading this and just thinking about this book and how much I love this book. And finally we have Cinder and the whole Lunar Chronicles. To be honest, I started this year reading the Lunar Chronicles, and every time I tell myself I'd read one more chapter, I couldn't, and I just ended up reading so much more. I lost a lot of sleep. It's genuinely one of my favourite series. They're fairy tale retellings but with a sci-fi twist. So there's Cinder, which is Cinderella, Scarlet, which is Little Red Riding Hood, Cress, which is Rapunzel, and Winter, which is Snow White. And honestly, I tell myself I would be like, oh, I'll just read one more chapter, and then I go to sleep, and then it was 4 o'clock in the morning and I was very much awake and stressing about what was happening and what was going on in these books. So yeah, so they're the books that I lost sleep over because they just ruined my life in various different ways. Cool. I'd like to know which books you told yourself you were going to read one more chapter and then you just didn't do that. I'd love to know the books that kept you up at night. Let's discuss down below. If you're new here, then I make videos a couple of times a week, so if you'd like to stick around and join us, then you can press the subscribe button and the little bell down there. And as usual, all my links will be in the description below, so if you would like to come and hang out with me on other social medias, you can do. It's Run on the Road on everything, and my website is runontheroad.com. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're doing really, 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 really well, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!